Every serious engineering organization has a wall of ceremony around code, review, tests, stage deploys, canaries, automatic rollback, and then, right next to it, a side door, configuration, a routing table entry, a feature flag, a cleanup jobs query parameter. Config changes routinely skip the ceremony because they feel small and they propagate instantly because that is the whole point of a control plane. One change fans out to hundreds of data centers in seconds. That inversion is the danger. The system executes a bad idea flawlessly, everywhere, at once. The biggest outages of the last few years across CDNs, clouds, and social networks were not hardware failures. They were perfectly delivered configuration. Today, we build a discipline that fixes this blast radius thinking and the Fail-Small Toolkit. Then we watch it play out in Cloudflare's February incident and the engineering plan they published in response. Ask one question of any change mechanism. If this change is wrong, how much of production does it touch before something stops it? That is the blast radius, and for an instantly propagated global config system, the honest answer is all of it. The fix is not to slow everything to a crawl. It is to make the radius a design parameter. You deploy the change to one cell, one data center, one small slice of traffic. You define what healthy means in advance. Error weights, root counts, request success, and a health gate must pass before the change earns the next, bigger stage. Wrong changes still happen. They just fail small, inside one cell, where automated rollback can undo them before a human even reads the page. The difference between a 2-minute blip and a 6-hour global incident is rarely the bug. It is the radius the bug was given. The Fail-Small discipline is a toolkit, and its three tools compose. First, health-mediated deployment, every change to how you serve traffic. Config included moves through the same staged, health-gated auto-rollback pipeline as a software release. Second, circuit breakers on scale, not just on errors. Any process about to modify an anomalous amount of state, say withdrawing 1,000 network routes when the daily normal is a handful, should trip a breaker and demand a human. Mass change is itself a signal, independent of whether each individual change looks valid. Third, failure mode design. Decide in advance what each subsystem does when its dependency dies. A bot scoring service that fails should default to letting traffic through, not dropping it. A dashboard should never depend on the very system currently on fire. None of these tools prevents bugs. All of them prevent bugs from rattling globally. The uncomfortable truth behind most config disasters, the tests passed. Staging environments and mock data validate the scenarios someone thought to write down. But the dangerous class of change comes from autonomous machinery, cleanup tasks, reconciliation loops, scheduled jobs that mutate production state with no explicit human input on the day it goes wrong. If your testing never covers the task runner acts on its own with an empty input, you have never tested your actual risk. And there is a design smell that turns these bugs catastrophic. APIs where an absent filter silently means everything. A query for records pending deletion that, given no value, cheerfully returns every record. That is not a validation gap, that is a loaded weapon left on the table. Schema validate parameters, make empty filters an error, and make destructive verbs require an explicit bounded target list. Then assume all of that fails anyway, and lean on the toolkit from the last slide. Now the case study, and you might remember this one. Back in February, half the internet's on-call engineers got the same page at the same time. Cloudflare's bring your own IP customers were vanishing from the routing table. Here is what actually happened, straight from their post-mortem. An automated cleanup subtask in the addressing API was supposed to remove prefixes pending deletion. It queried the endpoint with the pending delete filter present, but EMPDY and the API interpreted no value as all values. The task began dutifully withdrawing every BYOIP prefix it could see. 1100 of the 6500 advertised prefixes were pulled from BGP before engineers terminated the process. A quarter of BYOIP customers, unreachable from the internet through no fault of their own. Detection came via their own 1.111 website throwing 43s. 800 prefixes were restored by automation, roughly 300 needed manual recovery, and the full incident ran 6 hours and 7 minutes. Every concept from the first 4 slides is in this story, which is exactly why we chose it. The February incident did not happen in a vacuum. Cloudflare was already mid-reform. In late 2025, they suffered 2 global outages. November 18th cost about 2 hours and 10 minutes of network failure. December 5th impaired 28% of applications for roughly 25 minutes. So they declared an internal code orange, with one principle, fail small. The published plan reads like our toolkit slide made corporate policy. First, health-mediated deployment for every production configuration system by the end of Q1 2026. That means staged, health-gated rollout with automatic rollback. In their words, changes to how traffic is served deserve the same tested caution as changes to the software itself. Second, explicit failure modes per product. If bot management fails, default to letting traffic through. Third, the unglamorous one, fixing break glass procedures. That included a circular dependency where the dashboard's own human verification step depended on infrastructure that was down. The February incident then pressure tested the plan and added two remediations: schema validated API parameters and circuit breakers that how any large SKU would draw automatically. Let's learn the lessons because they travel to any team that ships config. First, blast radius is a design parameter, not an accident. Stage every change through cells with health gates and automatic rollback. Yes, including trivial config. Wrong ideas should fail small. Second, put circuit breakers on volume. A process withdrawing 1,000 routes or deleting 1,000 records should stop itself purely because of the count. Third, audit your APIs for the empty filter trap. A missing parameter must be an error, never a wildcard. Destructive operations need explicit bounded target lists. Fourth, choose failure defaults before the failure. Degrade open where safety allows. Never let your recovery tools depend on the system that is down. Cloudflare's 6-hour February outage and their fail-small plan are the same story told twice. Once as a wound, once as the scar tissue. Build the scar tissue first. Thanks for watching.